had the audio recording on this whole time though.
What? Sure. I was like, what?
You know this one?
Yeah.
This is like one of my favorite songs of all time right here.
You know, he kind of just fell off the face of the earth, but I think he became a minister or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Buckle up.
We'll play around, it's a pancake down.
Okay, Danny.
What?
See, that's why I gotta dress him up.
Here we go.
His suit doesn't match his personality.
1. All right. First thing I want to say is Time Warner, we do not own any of this music, so please don't play my videos. They are on #LilDFW show. I'm Daniel DePasquale. I got Jeremy Morgan here and Big Dr. J in the house.
Dr. J to the D.
I don't know if we can count that as a new one though, because we did
big.
say Dr. J. I just threw big in front.
I had one though. Did you hear mine?
No.
Dr. J to the D.
Oh,
J to
okay.
the D.
That's close to the other one, but to get the repetitions that we need, we're gonna have to
Get creative
a little bit.
Okay.
You should have kept score and played a game. I think you're like
That would have been more
dominating me
fun.
right
Yes.
now, yeah. So I think I got 2 and you got 5 at this point. But we're
Pretty typical.
We are on our goal to 8. Like we're gonna make that. in no
Yeah,
time,
I think
so
that was a low standard.
We'll expand.
Just saying.
All right. So you said you have a business now where you're helping
Parallelpreneurs.
Parallelpreneurs.
Yes.
Okay. I knew I could count on you to bring me back. Maybe describe to us a little bit like what that is, what that looks like.
Definitely. So it's really a term that's really common these days, but it describes a person who has a job and then they have what many call these days side hustle, right? So whether it be a corporate career or maybe you're a caregiver, maybe you just have something else going on, but you also want to be a business owner on the side.
Okay.
So you're running those parallel.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so how are you trying to help them? Is it to get from out of one side completely and over into...
So I like to focus on the initial stage of that, and that's where people are, matter of fact, Jeremy, you mentioned something earlier in the intro about people working jobs that they don't typically enjoy. And ironically so, statistics show also that on Mondays from 8 to 11 a.m. that's when most heart attacks happen, and that's during the time most people are working and doing things that they don't enjoy. So one option for that is to start working on your passion or your purpose, right? So some people may not even know what that is, so it may start there to where we have to identify what it is that you're good at, what your passion is, and how do we turn that passion into profit so that you then feel like you have a dual income, and this may be something bigger later.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. I like that. My dad used to always say, you know, if you're waking up and you don't want to get out of bed, you just hate going into work, like you're having those thoughts before you're leaving the house, it's time to change.
Absolutely.
Like you got to find something new to do.
It's really past time to change at that point, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that. So I've met someone before, and they had a very successful business, and I said, "Man, you must really love that particular line of business. Like they loved what it afforded them, you know." And so of the options, they took an option, and so I think it's important to realize that we define work or our job as who we are so much, and it's so much a part of us. But I think it's really cool to look at the big picture of how that relates to family and to different things. And another thing, they love their job, and they neglected something else because of their job. So the balance piece is really interesting to me, that we want the best of all the worlds, and the work it would take and the progress it would take to get there.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how it's if someone found their passion spot, but they made all their money here, and they may get a story online or Facebook or Instagram, get excited and quit their job and follow my dream no matter what it costs and charge a credit card.
Yeah.
That's probably not smart.
Right.
It can hurt you other ways, right? And so I really like the parallel piece, because it gives you time to test and try, and then not make other things possibly suffer at the same time.
Absolutely. And to your point about the balance, typically there is, I know we have this term work-life balance, but there really is no balance per se, but it's just referring to you finding what it takes and how much time you want to spend, whether it be your life or your job or your business. But that's the other part of what I do when I work with my clients is the intentional living part, right? Just as you are a parallelpreneur, most of the time the biggest challenge is time. So beyond the fact that, you can't really, you don't know what to do or how to start your business, it's also that time thing. You feel like I don't have time because I have this job, because I have a husband, because I have kids, and just trying to navigate better the time that you do have.
It's interesting too, because it could be that thing is that it gets to be your thing. So you have a job and you have the kids and you have this, and so some people don't have their thing, a hobby or something that is theirs or for them. And so it's just an opportunity to have something for them that's about them, for them, and not about everyone else.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and that comes to that passion and purpose piece. And unfortunately, we have so many people that have not yet found their passion, and they kind of feel lost in life in general because you're just going about the days just hoping things will just fall into place, not really knowing what direction you're going in. So I like to help people with that as well.
Yeah. It's not like people don't plan to fail; they just fail to plan.
You know what? That's a chapter in my book as well.
Look
at you.
I may or may have not
read. Yeah, I think it's the latter, but you just got lucky there.
I think something that's interesting too is, and we haven't got into this, but the concepts of gratitude and joy and being peaceful, full of peace, and that you can always find peace and joy in your place. I think that's a lot of the mindset and the piece that we're discussing. I know you might be super, super miserable in your job, and that's feedback. You got to take feedback and use feedback for your advantages. But sometimes people lose jobs. Sometimes businesses go down. Sometimes the unexpected happened, and you may be unhappy with that situation. But there's an opportunity to be grateful and peaceful and full of joy. Because I think Danny talked about that you can get stuck in this rut or consumed by, or in your mind you're focused on what happened or what didn't go wrong, and that prevents you from taking the chance or trusting or whatever that might be.
There's a talk, Matthew McConaughey talk. I don't know if you guys ever heard this one before. It's like a speech that he does at a graduation.
Is he sitting there with rubbing his beard the whole time with a white shirt on?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It's Matthew McConaughey, right? So,
I haven't seen that.
When does he not do that? But towards the end of his talk, he talks a lot about what he would notice is when he's focusing very hard on a particular area, so whether it's his acting career, then other relationships suffer. So his family relationships would suffer, friendships would suffer. And the approach he took was almost an evaluation daily, basically, to see where he was at and say, okay, like, where do I need to shift a little bit of my energy now to either repair or make up for lost time or just get things back in balance?
Yeah, and I think that's a good activity to do, and it reminds me of another one of my chapters in the book, and that is you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. So if you think about it that way, to his point, obtaining that feedback even externally, not just you sitting in retrospect or introspect rather, but also seeking advice from people that are close to you to see what they're seeing and helping you to know or identify those areas of opportunity for you.
I'd say it's a big thing in life too that I would say people probably don't have enough of is folks that they trust, that they respect, and that respect them as well, and that they can get that honest feedback and take it and use it for good versus thinking about it in a negative term or just feeling like people are bashing you or something like that. It's good to have that team and build that team. I would say that's like a big recommendation I would put out there. Like, it's one reason I guess I like having Jeremy around, right? He can tell me.
I know everything he does wrong.
And you call it out, I'm sure.
Oh. We'll leave that for another show.
I'm a work in progress.
We all are, if that makes you feel any better.
So, how did you have a talk coming up?
I do.
At our next event, the hashtag LinkInLocalDFW. It's intentionally mastering your time to achieve purposeful action.
Yes.
The doctor of time mastery.
Management. Right.
That was actually 2 different, but I mean, slightly, you know. So you both get a point for that?
I
We got
guess.
2.
Yes, we've reached 8, 9. You have a lot going on. And so I think you spoke a little bit earlier about electronics
Mm-hmm.
helping people. I'd love to hear other tips that you might have for folks.
Yeah.
Just to be able, because you wear a lot of hats.
I
And
do.
I think about it and I sit back and I'm in awe. I'm like, wow, that is amazing. How do you do all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I wasted my entire life when I talked to you.
No way.
She has a different capacity than you.
She-
She did the best. She did the
she-
best with what you got,
Yeah.
and she just has so much more to give. Than
Oh,
There you go.
okay. We can
you.
go
Be
with
okay
that.
with that.
Yeah. No,
That's that feedback you're loving, right?
There you go, right? Make me feel good about myself.
Yeah.
She was working on her doctorate and her 4 books. You were throwing darts and drinking Miller High Life.
Highlight.
I don't know about the
Highlight. It's highlight.
I don't know about the darts piece, but some of that other stuff is probably correct. Alright. So I'd say let's jump into a break. We're about that time anyways. We'll jam out to some music because I love my music. And when we come back, we go over those tips
Okay.
and the keynote session that you have coming up at the event next week.
Sounds good.
I love it. Alright,
Good stuff.
everyone. Folks, this is the hashtag Lil DFW show. I am Mr. Daniel DePasquale. I am with the Jeremy Morgan and the one and only Dr. Jatun Dorsey.
Yes, she's here.
Does that count the one and only?
I should have said Dr. One and Only.
Yeah.
Right.
I realize I haven't been capturing you guys in my video.
Oh, that's alright. I don't want to break your screen.
It takes,
I can at
Danny-
least
Danny
get
takes
a
criticism
glimpse
well.
of you.
I take a beating and I can keep on ticking, right?
It's interesting when you get video of yourself. Sometimes I learned that I talk crooked with my mouth. I just start doing
I see all sorts of things for me.
I do like
My eye, one of my eyes kind of lowers or something.
Starting to
I'm
nervous
like, what's
twitch.
going
It's
on?
like I just went to the dentist and I'm like, I have to help this other side.
It's all done. There's drool coming out. and everything. All right, let's bring it all back. 3, 2, 1.
We're back in the studio, hashtag LILDFW, Dr. Jatun Dorsey, my best friend, and Danny DePasquale, my second best friend.
Ah, I love it.
Yeah, you just got bumped.
I
You
did. I
almost-
graduated.
You surpassed me over one day.
got bumped.
It's
And
been a
so-
total of 40 minutes, and I've already been backed up to number 2.
Yeah, and so Danny's trying to get some tips.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't have to read all 4 books. He's trying to get the Cliff's Note to save time. I know what he's up
Yeah,
to.
exactly. I'm trying to improve myself here without putting it out there to
Yeah.
the world on how I just intentionally master.
He just
my
wants
time.
you to read the book. He's going to record it, but it's probably. Are you on Audible.com
I'm
already?
not. I'm
So
not.
we're gonna take a break and we're gonna record an Audible.com, Audible reaching you wherever you are session real
goodness.
quick.
I was like, I was like, oh, there's an opportunity. I want to read her book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Danny now's gonna read a book online and call it a show.
I'm gonna put on my best Morgan Freeman impression and
Yeah.
read your book and just be like,
And send me the download so I can use that.
Danny has kind of a voice book kind of thing going
chapter
on.
1.
Does he?
Talk a little bit.
So you do
for us.
voiceovers?
You should.
Absolutely. The Purpose of Intentional Living by Dr. Jatun Dorsey.
Uh-huh.
Chapter 1.
Okay, I love it.
Managing your time.
Ah, gave me a new chapter too.
Your brain might be ripped after all. I might have underestimated. Your voice is ripped.
So great, bro.
Oh my goodness, you guys are
All
funny.
right. So yeah.
So some tips, right?
Yeah, tips to managing time.
So, of course, we don't want to give you all the dibs because we want you to come to the event next week.
Yeah, for sure. And buy books.
Yes, all of that. Shameless plug. But some of the tips that I wanted to share are things that you've probably heard of, but we typically neglect, forget, move on past, and just don't ever implement. One of them is SMART goals. And this method has actually been enhanced to become smarter goals, right? But if you don't know what SMART goals are, it's specific, measurable, attainable. What is Jeremy's trying to guess?
There's a lot of different A's and a lot of different R's.
There are.
Which one you use.
There are. And so what's the
realistic?
R?
You're gonna use realistic?
Yep, realistic, and then
time-bound.
Yep. And so
I hear achievable, attainable.
mm-hmm.
I hear a lot of different A's.
Yeah, which is
attractive. Attractive is one of the A's I've heard.
oh.
Really for that?
Yeah, because I get
Sounds like,
confused on
oh.
attainable and realistic or achievable, realistic. The A and the R are kind of close to me.
Yeah.
And so one of my favorites was attractive because you have to be like excited about it, maybe.
I get that. Okay, when you put it that way, I can
Don't
receive
rewrite
that.
the book or anything.
I
because of
won't.
that.
I won't.
Oh.
But that's actually not even in this book. So this is just the tips that I'm going to share
Okay, good.
next week. So just getting clear about your goals, right? Because when we are clear, we can better outline the pathway forward and then therefore take action, right? And consistent action. But I would say before you even identify your goals, you want to, of course, shift that mindset, because once you shift the mindset, the thoughts become things. So once you start thinking different, you start thinking higher vibrations on those things that you want to achieve in life, then now you can say, okay, now I have some goals, right? I'm clear on my mindset shift has changed. And now I know exactly what it is that I want to achieve. So now let me identify what those look like from a SMART goal perspective. So when you set your goals in a SMART goal perspective, you're getting more clear about it. So you're not just saying, I want to, obtain my degree at the end of this year. Okay, where do you want to attend school? What is your focus? How much is this going to cost? Where are you going to get this money? Like, get very detailed about those goals. And then documentation. To me, documentation beats conversation. We can talk about what we want to do all day long. We can think about it even all day long. And when we talk about having intention is really having a plan. So moving beyond that intention and actually putting this intention into action is where that SMART goal piece comes in, because now you're laying it out, you're putting it on paper, and now you're very clear about what it is that you want to achieve and how you will achieve it. But there are so many other methods that you can use as well. Typically, we with the Eisenhower method, you think about the 80-20 rule, right? When you do 20% of your effort actually returns 80% of your results. And when you think of it that way, so often we beat ourselves up about, making sure we spend 100% of our time on achieving this one thing. But when you have your plan, you can better assess what time needs to be spent. And typically 20% of what you actually do is worth that result of 80%.
Yeah, I love 80-20 rule, because you can apply it in so many different
You
ways.
can.
And then someone will go, do you know it? And you're like, yeah, and they have a whole different 80-20 rule out there. It's like
Jeremy, I'm going to call you the twist.
the twist?
The
'Cause
plot-
I just said my chair?
No, the plot twist. You take it a different direction.
Oh.
I like it.
I'm
I
a
like
derailer
it.
is what I've been called once by.
Really?
Yeah. So, what's interesting on the intentional piece is really
Yeah.
important. So you said documentation. I thought of you can say yes, I'm committed to you, baby, and then you get a document and put a ring on it. It's a whole different game, right? When you put it on paper or sign on the
You feel more
line.
committed to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting that the documentation and this kind of is it similar to thinking on paper? Is it the process that you're going
It's
through
that
to
data dump,
document?
that same data dump we talked about earlier, except you're writing everything down, so you're being clear about it. Because I don't know about you guys, but for me, I can think about things all day long, and then when I get home, I can have every intention and every thought. I keep hitting my mic. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm talking with my hands. If you talking with my hands, if you can't see us, but Yeah, so when you write it down, you feel more accountable, right? And you can really track towards your success. If it's not documented, you can't monitor it, you can't measure it.
Right.
So having that in front of you, and even creating that sacred space is what I like to refer to it as. So when you document, make sure it's in a place that you're going to see often. You create this ritual to where, okay, every day I have this tablet, I have these sticky notes or whatever it is, so that I know that that's where I need to refer back to keep myself on track towards these goals.
Yeah, I think a lot of like business plans that are forced on people to produce in the corporate world, if that makes sense. So they have smarts and SWATs and all these different things, and then goes in a drawer and no one looks.
No one looks at it or applies it.
Yeah, there's some statistic that says like you write it down, you might pull it out, it's going to be surprisingly interesting. But what I found is that sometimes it was just a drill. You did it to do the drill, and it's not where you can see it. You never look at it again, or you compromised or just said it wasn't real, or you really didn't spend the time. It's kind of like you do set the mind first, get the mindset, and know what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Because it was a plan that sounded good at the time, but it really wasn't attractive to the person.
And that brings about another thought. I was actually talking to one of my clients here recently, and she was mentioning that her challenge was that you would write it down, you're disciplined enough to write it down and have an idea of what you want to do, but you're just not consistent in the action or even referring back to it. And one thing I challenged her to do was to really think about her why. Like, why do you want this goal? And if you have a why that's big enough, that's bigger than you, or even bigger than the task that it takes to get there, then that's going to create that compassion, or even, Daniel, to what you mentioned earlier about I think your dad or your granddad mentioned, you'll want to wake up and feel energized about that goal. Right. So you're going to always be looking for what do I need to do today? Because that why, for that reason why I'm doing this, is bigger than me.
Yeah, it's like the motivation piece.
Yeah.
So there was a speaker one time talking, and he said, "What do you want from this talk?" And I said, "Motivation."
Yeah.
So that's really why he was there. He said, "The bank calls me every Monday morning. If you need motivation, I can't help you, right? You gotta be self-motivated, right?
Yeah.
You gotta have these things." But I think it's so important, and it's not that someone's not motivated, but sometimes fear or worry or something else is the fear is bigger than the faith. The worry's bigger than the want, or whatever it is. I can't get any more letters that go together real fast, but so there's that piece is that you have to go back and remember. I think it'd be like if you having a baby is really hard work, and you're like miserable, and it was fine for me, right? I was
really?
You're gonna hear this show.
I'm lying. Yes. I was a little miserable.
Oh, really?
My sleep was messed up.
Oh,
and I had to do extra stuff,
interesting.
And so I was. I shouldn't complain.
You shouldn't. You really should.
Right? But you think about it just seems so. Seems so hard, but there's no way out of that one, right?
Right.
You know it's going to be beautiful. You know there's like this is totally worth all of this trouble, and so you have to think about that baby in the end. You're right. It's all for this.
Okay, I'm really convinced that you guys have read my book, because I have a chapter that's called Distractions or Light Contractions. And the thing is that we have to push through those, right? And just because a mom who is pregnant has a contraction and it's painful doesn't mean that they abort the baby, right? They continue to go through that process because it's a bigger why at the end. So, yeah.
I just think we're supposed to write a book together.
We'll do a remix of the book.
I think what all the folks should
Dr.
understand
Remix.
out there is that we're not here just to look pretty, is what that boils down to. We actually do some stuff on the back end as well, right?
Yes.
Bring our A game.
I've read. Yeah. I have no A game. You just bring out the best in me. All the good
you
things
just bring the
ever.
game.
What you say sparks that one thing I read or used to do or remembered that I data dumped and put in
I love
in
that.
my backup, and you're bringing it out of my backup.
I love that.
So one interesting that you said was that you got to get your mind right first.
Yeah.
And so up here, and you hear it a lot, right? Like it's that you got to win the battle, and that's probably the biggest battle.
It is
the one in between your ears. But you got to win that one first to go on and win the war. And these are just additional weapons or tools for you to use to be able to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I took it to war and battling because I know you like that.
It is my thing.
Yeah,
It's a whole.
so.
But how do you win that battle? I guess the tips and the SMART goals and that piece is there. is that that's kind of organization and time management. Is there anything specific on the brain funk that you found? Any more tips on the brain funk side?
Just meaning like being stagnant in the motivation per se.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say
it's like to get to the consistency. One of the consistency tips was like remember why you're there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think consistency is that's the hardest challenge for me is consistency.
Yeah, and I think typically the challenge with the consistency is that people think that means doing it every single day, every single hour. And it doesn't necessarily mean that. Again, going back to you documenting your goals and your plans, and once you outline, for instance, you have this overarching goal, but then you have your subtasks. These are the steps that you need to take to get to that goal, and you identify how often or how frequent you need to, tackle those tasks. Mm-hmm. So consistency may mean weekly, it may mean monthly. It just depends on what that task is. But having that in front of you really gives you that clarity and that blueprint to follow, so that you're not just going about the day saying, oh, what is the day going to have for me? Instead, you're waking up saying, this is what I have planned for the day.
Oh, yeah. I like that. You made me think of something that I talked about with our friend Jackie, and she just...
Shout out to Jackie.
Jackie, hey, girl.
What's up, girl? We see you.
So she said a lot of I am. She gave me a presentation. She said all the things that were so I am consistent.
Yes.
I am. It's kind of like there's so much in life. If I just followed the blueprint that I made and I did it consistently, like 80% of what I was supposed to.
Yeah.
Didn't have to do 100% for 30 days. What kind of result would I have inside of that? So it's kind of like I like to say there's a song I like I Am Machine, and I don't know who writes or anything. I work out to it's not a good song, but it's just about like I just keep going. Right?
Yeah.
And so there's a line in a movie about being a machine, an old movie called Sugar Hill. Mm-hmm. No one's ever. I don't remember. It's a good line. I think he's got a Glock, and he's. Anyways,
a Glock. Okay.
Yeah, it's a gangsta movie.
Okay, I see.
I used to be gangsta.
Oh, what happened?
I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at it. But so it's just like the mindset of, or how do you get like just deciding that's what I do, that's who I am, and then when you fail, just build the habit. I guess the comments on habits. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's 21 days or 31 times or 31 flavors or
my book.
No, like they say how many days or times does it take to build a habit?
Oh yeah. Goodness, it's hours. It's like 28. It was something like 28,000. I probably have that wrong, but I know what you're talking about.
I always heard it's like you got to do like 30 days or something like that, or something in a row for it to become a habit.
Yeah, but they even say that about working out. Like, when you continue to work out, it takes time for you to really see the results. But other people may see it quicker than you, and you're looking at yourself every day like, I am a loser.
You didn't succeed at being a gangster because you hadn't read her book yet.
That too, yeah.
You didn't have all the tools needed.
I was talking to someone about exercise and in the weightlifting piece. There's a positive and there's a negative. In that you actually in exercise you get more sore from the negative. There's more work in the negative than there is in the positive. It's really interesting. And then there's a thing called isometric. Isometric is you're pushing and working and nothing is happening. Wow. Nothing is moving. You don't even see the weights moving, but inside you're getting stronger and you're adapting. You're adapting to that pressure or that force would make over time we would get a result. But on the outside, you can't see anything changing at all.
Oh wow, yeah, that's good. Look at Jeremy.
Okay.
I stole that from someone else.
Oh, okay.
The isometric was me though. I just added to it.
Okay, I love that.
Any song request?
Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Nope.
I can't see the cheat so.
That song? Can you give it that? All right, we're gonna take our last break. Here's what I want to get to.
Jatun Jiggy.
Yeah. Getting doctor with it.
Okay.
The doctor.
Jatun. Use Jatun.
Talk about the event a little bit when we come back. Like, just go over and let people know when it is coming up, how they can RSVP, get to it. Go over your website again, how they can get in contact with you, and then maybe play the guessing game of like what your 20 nicknames are. In your
family, didn't forget
what your dad used to call you. So maybe we'll get like 3 guesses a piece or something.
I've used all mine.
But no, that's for the doctor name. She's got her dad has a nickname for her that I have not guessed yet.
Okay.
I have a ton of them, so.
Yeah, and she's like, husband has a separate nickname for her, like mom has a separate
Yes,
nickname.
that's how lovable I am, right?
Yeah, it's just everybody nicknames you. You're Dr. Nickname.
And I'm now best friend too, right?
Uh-huh.
What'd you choose? Living on a prayer? Was that it?
No.
Or what'd you say, Mom? Oh no, it's
We're gonna
getting
do
jiggy
jiggy.
with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get jiggy with it, everyone. This is hashtag Lil DFW coming to you live from Picture X in the Galleria. I'm Daniel DiPasquale. I'm with
Recorded
Jeremy
live.
Morgan and Dr. Nickname Jatun Dorsey. Getting jiggy with it. Haha. All right. We're at 55. So
Oh, that's
we're
good.
doing- oh yeah,
We're on
nice.
pace.
Time flies when you're having fun. doesn't it?
Yeah.
Gotta get jiggy with it. Oh, that's it.
I just let
Daniel
it go.
knows these words. He knows it.
Oh yeah. I think Jackie and I were talking about this.
Really?
About, like, yeah. And I said, you know what? When I was younger, it was like you just found songs that you liked and you played them on repeat. At least I
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Right? It was like I listened to the same song 40 times in a row. And so I was like, you put a Jay-Z song on, more
You know
than likely
words.
I'm going to know every
Really?
single word to it. I'll spit it out, no problem. I know no new music whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
And the
either.
artist names. I'm like, I give.
Yeah. All right.
You probably did a lot of crisscross, I bet.
Ooh, yeah, crisscross.
That is still hype today.
Yes.
It's just a hype beat.
Where are they?
Alright.
Oh,
Who
they're probably a
knows?
mess. I hope they're okay.
Me too. I think one had cancer though.
Oh.
Yeah.
Alright, guys, coming back from the break. This is hashtag Lil DFW show. We were playing the Where Is game about crisscross during the break, guys, if you couldn't hear us. I'm Daniel DiPasquale. I'm here with Jeremy Morgan and Dr. Jatun Dorsey, and we'll talk a little bit just about the event that's coming up next week. Hashtag LinkInLocalDFW. We are very blessed and honored to have you come in and be the keynote speaker for us.
Dr. Keynote.
Slid that one in.
Just trying to one up me. Make sure he gets one more in before this show's over. And you're going to talk on the topic, intentionally master your time to achieve purposeful action. You've given some folks some tips now, but obviously they're going to pull a lot more
Yes.
from that. I want to give people kind of an idea of what this looks like when they show up. It's open networking. We never stop the networking throughout the night, but you have the opportunity to go listen to our doctor here speak 2 times, one at
Yes.
6:15 and one at 7 o'clock, and I just highly recommend that. Some other things to expect there is, generally there's over 100 professionals, a lot of quality people that are always looking to connect, and they really want to build relationships. You get 2 free drinks. We provide some light food. We also break down the professionals by their industry with different color name tags. People seem to love that.
Yeah, it's
That's
awesome.
that's like an inside joke that we have there on that
Makes
one.
no sense to me.
Yeah.
Really?
But it does. I guess maybe just because we like to meet everyone,
Yeah.
so it doesn't, in our minds, it doesn't really register as what the importance is. But I do see the flip side of it too, and I talk about this a lot. Is like some folks, they just want to target a specific industry.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Right?
Mhm.
It might be I think the example I always go to is it might be a mortgage lender, and they want to meet real estate
Right,
agents, right? 'Cause
yeah.
obviously that's where their business comes from.
Yeah, and one of the challenges, there's just so many people, so it's over 100, it could be, at any time, it could be close to 200.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's that many people, you do need to filter it maybe. What I would say is that enjoy yourself, meet as many people as you can, and that Danny and I have a system and a process to help them find the right people.
Mm-hmm.
Because the best contact for you might not have been there that time. They might have been there time before, or 8 weeks ago, or may not even be there.
Yeah.
And so instead of that, we can get these people for you to meet anytime, or if you can't make it and you're just looking to meet certain professionals, we're here to help. That's what
Yeah.
we're here to do.
Yeah, sit down with us. That's one big thing too. Is we always send out the business cards day after, and then we reach out to people within 48 hours because we really want to get feedback. And just
Mhm.
figure out how do we constantly improve this thing and just make it better for the folks that are attending. Provide the big value add.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways we can do that is to actually just sit down with folks and somewhat go over what our process is. You know,
Yeah.
part of it is the follow-up phone calls, but then it's sitting down in the one-on-ones. It's trying to figure out who are the good connections for them or the good referrals, and be intentional about it. That's another piece. Like I love the word intentional.
Yeah.
I talk to folks about that all the time. Like I'm very intentional about building relationships. I want to know what the next steps for us look like. Jeremy likes to put it into dating terms. So he'll go, you know, we've had our first date. I'm not going to propose that we get married right now at this point, but I want to plan a second date with you. Like,
We let me move to lunch?
Yeah, you let
So
me have.
it's a process.
You let me have some of the popcorn,
Oh.
right? Like so.
I never talk about that. I keep it very professional, a little creepy, but very professional.
Creepy.
I just have to add, you know, what you guys are doing is very commendable. And to those of you who are listening, when they say networking event, it really is a networking event. And I know, especially in this Metroplex, I've experienced many that are called networking events but aren't really that experienced. So, yeah, what you're doing is commendable, and everything that you said that you're doing, you are actually doing. So I would encourage anyone listening to attend.
And it's hard work. So I go to a lot of different events, and so really, so Danny has created kind of a system, a process, a special sauce to this thing to get that many people there.
Yeah.
You know, so he had him there. He worked very hard on it, a lot of time and energy, and a lot of people will give up on creating a networking event of their own or a process on their own. And it might mean a couple of things. You might need some help or different partners, and so if we can be a partner in helping that, then there's a chance. We're not making any promises, but he may give you this secret sauce, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, the way I look at it is people ask all the time, oh, can I use this, or how do you do that, or can you send me a picture of this? A lot of it is stuff where we've gotten the ideas from other people, other events, and it's just they just have that one piece. It's not multiple pieces. And, like, none of it's copyrighted. You know,
no trademarks.
And I mean, you got a trademark on the hashtag LinkedInLocalDFW and the little DFW show, but outside of that, right? Like, and I want to see people be successful as well. Like, that's what I mean. We're about trying to build relationships and help people get there. So why wouldn't I want to see you do just as well or better?
Yeah.
Right? So, like, go for it. Do your thing, and we'll help out as much as possible. So what's the preferred method for people to be able to connect with you? I know they can go to your website, which is www.drjatun.com.
Yep, that's it. And of course, people have their own preferred methods, so you can find me on social media as well. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube at DRJATUN.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Only reach out to me on LinkedIn, people. No, I'm joking. Anything? Oh, almost forgot.
Oh, yeah.
Drum roll. Do we have
The grand
drum roll?
finale.
Do we have drum roll on here? I don't think we have drum roll. Oh, no. All right. There's a couple icons over here that just make noises, right?
Yeah.
So it's Texas.
Don't bring that. We don't want that today.
It sounds so real through these headphones.
It does. Surround sound.
All right. We're going to play a quick guessing game.
Okay.
What is the nickname that was your dad, correct, has for you?
Yeah.
Is that the one we're going to go with?
We can go with that one.
Okay.
That's too hard.
2 guesses. Well, you want to go with mom? I mean, I don't know.
He called her daughter. I mean, this is.
It would be hard.
It has to be something with J. So there has to be like Baby J. Don't you, Baby J? That's not a bad one then, Dr. Baby J.
J girl. No. All right.
JJ.
So we both got.
What's your middle initial?
Actually, J is my middle initial.
Yeah, JJ.
But no, that's not what he called me.
Okay.
Snookums.
I
guess Baby girl.
That was a good guess, but
That's not a
no.
good one.
Oh.
I said princess earlier. She was like, no, not that one either.
No, are you ready for this?
Shorty.
No. Am I short?
I don't know. I'm just thinking back to like. When
Oh, you mean
were
like
kids.
shorty,
Yeah.
shorty.
Like it's her birthday or something.
Go.
Right. So, okay, I guess I have to
All right,
spill the
let's
beans
Spill
then.
the beans for the public. Come on.
Okay. It's squirrel.
Squirrel? No. Get out of
Yes.
here. We're
What?
so connected.
What
It's
happened?
ridiculous. My nickname, one of my nicknames when I was growing up was Squirrel.
Really?
And it was from baseball. Yeah.
Really?
I'm dead serious. I would not lie. Why would I lie to you about that?
I hope you would.
That's a better girl nickname, I think, Danny.
Oh.
Great.
He made you feel good once again, right?
She will make everything look better than what I can make it look. That's for sure.
Well,
so.
why? Thank you. Thank you.
It's not saying much.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna go ahead and finish up. Get out of here, Dr. Jatun Dorsey. Thank you
Yes.
so much for
Yes.
coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we are so excited to have you as the keynote speaker next week. Hashtag LinkedInLocalDFW. It is on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Let me bring up that date real quick.
That's the
14th. It's 14. Jeremy's got it. There
Monday's
you go.
12.
14
Thursday's
starts at
13th.
5:30 at Serendipity Labs. Everyone, this is Daniel DiPasquale with the
D.
Jeremy Morgan,
and
co-author,
Dr.
Co-author.
Jatun Dorsey.
co-author with Dr. Jatun Dorsey. In the future.
Oh, we're claiming that.
All right, guys.
One more thing. I
Yes.
want you to catch me on my podcast as well.
Oh.
So I forgot to mention that.
Oh yeah, I haven't been invited to be on that yet. So yeah.
Well, there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that. But it is Date with the Dorseys, and you can find it on iTunes, on SoundCloud. So
Date
catch us.
with the
as well.
Dorseys.
Yes,
Very
my
cool.
husband and I. Yeah, we
Oh,
talk about
wonderful.
the 5 F's, and if you want to know what those F's are, you got to tune in.
All right.
You can find it on my
Ooh.
website too, so it'll be there.
Okay. All right.
Fabulous,
Check it out.
fine, funny.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I guess
Fantastic.
I already know you like the word fabulous.
we have some more F's to add, it sounds like.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the hashtag Lil DFW show, and we will catch you next time.
Bye for now.
Peace.